So good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm joining you from the unseated and unseated advice Indigenous community. It is fantastic to see so many people in the room today and so many more thousands joining us online. So many who care deeply about the future of working people in Canada. Tonight's forum is about ideas and it's about leadership. It's about the future that we can build together for workers right across this country. I am Bea Bruske. I'm the president of the Canadian Labour Congress. The Canadian Labour Congress is Canada's largest labour organization, bringing together Canadian unions and representing over 3 million workers from coast to coast to coast. And we know that cost of living that keeps on climbing, wages that are far from keeping up, labor actions that are on the rise, tariffs that are threatening literally tens of thousands of jobs. The ripple effects are being felt across the country and across our economy right now. And people are tired of struggling to make ends meet. They are looking for leadership that puts them first. Whether it's the public sector or the private sector, union or non-union, across every region and across every industry, there are two top clear issues: good jobs and affordability. Canadians want to know that the next generation will do better, not worse, and they want governments to make life easier, not harder. Every single political party in this country is now chasing the votes of working people. And that tells us something really important. Working people hold the balance of power in this country. And the question is, who's truly ready to fight for them? And that's why tonight we're having an honest conversation with the NDP leadership contestants about their vision for Canada and for working people. Each candidate will join me on stage one-on-one for a 10-minute conversation. They will use that time to outline their priorities for workers, and they will answer a few key questions designed to show their leadership styles, their values, and their vision. So let's get started, my friends. Let's hear directly from those who want to lead Canada's Labour Party. And let's talk about what leadership looks like. So first up, we invite Rob Ashton. So Rob Ashton has spent more than 30 years working on docks, working hard, standing up for his co-workers, and fighting for fairness and respect. He is now the national president of the International Longshore and Warehouse Workers Union, trusted by his members across the country to lead with strength and integrity. He is a dad, a stepdad, a grandfather. Rob's family keeps him grounded and fuels his fight for a better life for working-class families in Canada. Rob is not a politician or a banker. He is a worker. He knows what it means to earn every single dollar and to stand shoulder to shoulder with others to make change happen. He is running to unite the NDP, to put workers and everyday people back at the heart of Canadian politics, and to put power back where it belongs, in the hands of working people. Now, there's a little fun fact about Rob. I'm told that he loves to sing and he's a big music buff. And apparently his go-to shower song is "Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay" by Otis Redding. So let's welcome Rob. Hello, my friend. So nice to see you. Please have a seat. So, hi. Rob, how are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm good, thank you. Rob, what's your message for working people in Canada?
My message for working people in Canada is it's about time that we actually start looking for jobs for Canadians that they can raise families on, that they can pay their rent for, groceries. They can take care of themselves and go on a vacation maybe once in a while. You know, we have a tendency to hide behind governments that don't care about us, whether liberals and conservatives. And I guess my message to Canadians is that we're going to find those jobs. We're going to find those industries that build on each other and expand so that all Canadians have a decent job. That's a part of the plan. And as we go forward, and when I'm elected leader on March 29th, what we're going to look at is getting back and meeting with Canadians and having those conversations and reinvigorating and building that trust back with the party. Because somewhere along the lines, we lost their trust. And we have to go into places where we might be uncomfortable going into, to have uncomfortable, hard conversations with Canadian workers and Canadian people. And then the next step is using those conversations to get new Democratic Party MPs elected across the country in places where some of us may not historically know or think that we could get people elected. That's the plan. That's how we have to think. We can't think small school. We got to think big dreams, big ideas. We have to push people, talk to them, get our people elected and get them reelected and reelected, and every election after that, expand on our base. Give something people to be proud of.
Thank you, Rob. Let me ask you, what's the most important action that you will take on day one?
Day one, go to work. Put my fancy orange crushed socks back on, put my work boots on, get the caucus together, and figure out a way to communicate with Canadians again. Figure out how to communicate with the EDAs again. And find a way an easy way for people to tell us what they think the problem is with our party. And they're going to be hard conversations. They're going to be tough conversations, but they're conversations that have to be had. That's day one. It's probably day two. But we're going to do it so that we can one day, and don't laugh at this, one day the NDP will run this country on behalf of the workers of this country.
Rob, in your estimation, what is the most important trait that the next leader of the NDP needs to have?
Unapologetically loud. The next leader of the NDP has to be able to sit in a room like this and listen to people and have conversations like I've said before. The next leader of the NDP needs to build a movement built by Canadians for Canadians, a movement that's going to lift us away from the bankers, away from the corporations. House where what workers built, not corporations, definitely not banks. Workers, their own blood, sweat, and tears built that building. And we're going to take it back.
Rob, tell us about a moment that shaped your decision to run for leader.
I've said it lots. I got tired of being lied to. I got tired of trying to convince my members, especially after this last election, that Pierre Poilievre is not a worker. That Mark Carney isn't a non-politician. Mark Carney was groomed for this gig. I was tired of that. And I was tired of people not talking about the class war that we're in. We're in a class war. It's the ruling class versus the working class. And we all have to understand that. And we have to be loud about it. And we got to rally the troops.
Rob, you walk into lots of lunchrooms, and when you walk into those lunchrooms and you know that those aren't always easy conversations, what is it that those working people in that tough lunchroom need to hear from you right now when they're worried about losing their jobs?
I don't think they want to hear any more from politicians or want to be politicians. I think they're tired of listening to us. I think what workers want is us to actually, politicians that sit in those seats, and I'm not talking about the New Democratic Party, because we've proven time and time again, especially recently with Leah's bill that takes away the Section 107s, or MP Gordjon's petition to allow farmers to use their seeds. They don't want to hear anything else. They want us to show them what we're going to do. That's all, I think.
What do you think people should know about you that they may not already know?
I'm not angry 24 hours a day. I take this so seriously. I do smile. It's hidden somewhere under the beard. I'm passionate about this. I've never been one to stand and watch a bully pick on somebody. And that's what happens in Ottawa now. People find people that don't look like me and say they're the enemy. I hate people like that. We have to be passionately defensive of our class. But we can't always be on the defensive. We have to be on the offensive. So yeah, I walk around looking like I got stung by 42 bees. But it's the passion that I have for this movement. And yeah, I smile at the small victories we have. And then I get ready for the next battle, for the next victory, for the working class.
Rob, in the time that we have left remaining, can you tell me what your proudest moment is as a union leader? Your proudest achievement?
Yeah. So I've negotiated a lot of collective agreements in my time. I've done a lot of grievances in my time. But I think the proudest moment I ever had as a rep of some sort was I happened to be walking through my home local office, and one of our staff members stopped me and they said, look, this worker has been having issues getting back onto our benefits program because they got a health issue. And this worker was too proud to go on our benefits. He wanted to just keep working and working and working, to the point where he didn't have enough hours to qualify for our benefit plan. So when I reached out to our worker, our member, and I was able to have that hard conversation with them and explain to them that it's okay. It's okay to ask for help and you need help. So the proudest moment I've had as a union rep was actually being able to get that member back on the benefits so that member could live the rest of their days with our union benefit plan and our union long-term disability plan. And that, out of my 20 years as a union rep, is something that I'll never forget.
Thank you for sharing that. One last piece that I have to ask you about. Can you describe the future of labor using one word?
Powerful, baby, powerful.
Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Give it up for Rob. So folks, the next person that we have up is Heather McPherson. So Heather grew up in a very busy working class family where inclusion and community were a part of everyday life. Her father was a truck driver with his own company. Her mom stayed at home with the kids. Their lives were full of swimming lessons, hockey practices, camping time, and time at the lake. Family was absolutely central to their home. They hosted large, lively dinners with their extended family, loud, chaotic, and always welcoming. No one was ever turned away. To make room for everyone, doors were taken off hinges, laid across makeshift legs, creating tables that snaked through the house and creating a space for everyone. Before politics, Heather spent nearly 20 years in the nonprofit sector, working for human rights, sustainable development, and global justice. In Parliament, Heather has been known to take on the toughest files, from foreign affairs to human rights and international trade, to healthcare, seniors, and culture. Heather has built a reputation as a fearless and fair-minded community builder, committed to opening doors and making space for everyone. And Heather's fun fact is that she was part of the local team that helped elect Linda Duncan to win Edmonton Strathcona in 2008. Heather herself won that seat in 2019 and earned the highest percentage of the vote out of any New Democrat elected both in 2021 and 2025. Let's welcome Heather. So nice to see you again. Please have a seat. Hello, Heather. How nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Heather, what's your message for workers in this country?
You know, this is a pivotal moment in time. This is a really important time for both our party, but also for Canadians. And I think Canadians need to know that New Democrats understand the challenge that Canadians are facing right now. You know, there are people in this country that are so deeply worried about their jobs. I think about young people in my life. I'm a mom of two. But young people across this country that are worried about whether or not they're going to be able to find a job. The fact that people aren't sure they're going to be able to pay for their rent or their housing. The fact that groceries cost so much. I talk about this all the time, but I have a 17-year-old son. I know how much groceries cost because he can go through a whole bunch of them. You know, that's, I think, what people need. They need to know that we see the challenges that Canadians across this country are facing and that we are going to make their lives better and easier. That's what workers need to hear from us right now.
Thank you for that. What is the most important action that you would take on day one?
You know, on day one, what we need to do is start the conversation. We need to start talking to our friends in Labour. We need to start talking to our provincial counterparts, the candidates across this country, the folks that volunteer on campaigns across this country. We need to be speaking to our caucus members to start having those conversations about rebuilding, because we've got a road in front of us. There's a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done, so that New Democrats are able to fight the fights that we need to be fighting for Canadians right now.
What is the most important trait that the next NDP leader needs to have?
I honestly believe the most important trait the next leader has to have is they have to be hardworking. It is going to be a lot of meetings. You know, it is going to be a lot of meetings in church basements, in union halls. You know, there's going to have to be conversations with people across this country, because one of the key things we need to do is we need to meet people where they're at. We need to meet people and talk to them about the issues that are important to them. And I think about what we were able to accomplish in Edmonton Strathcona. You know, you mentioned in the introduction, in 2008, that was a Conservative seat, and we took it from them. And it was a nail biter. We took it from them. But one of the things that we did from then is we worked so hard to build up our EDA. And we didn't stop there. You know, when I was elected in 2019, Rachel Notley wasn't sure she was going to, in fact, vote for me. She wasn't sure she could vote for the federal party. In 2025, she stood with me at my launch and endorsed me for the leader of the NDP. So for me, it's building. So it's making sure that we're working with our EDAs. We brought in a regional organizer that would actually work across Alberta. Our EDA paid for that, but it was so that we could expand, so that we could build up Edmonton Griesbach, Edmonton Centre, Edmonton Manning, that we could actually start spreading I don't need to win with 62% of the vote. I need to get more New Democrats elected. We need to win in more seats. We need to get more people elected as New Democrats, because when more New Democrats win, that's how we actually make change for Canadians.
Tell us about a moment that shaped your decision to run for leadership.
You know, you heard the story about me growing up, and we would take the table off the hinges, and it is a frame that I use for my leadership, because for me it is that idea. Like, my family wasn't political. We didn't talk about politics at the family table, but I watched my family, and I watched the way that my parents lived their values, and for me, that's what's so important. It's so important that we bring people in, that we welcome folks to our party, that we do build a bigger table. And so I think back to growing up. I think back to those chaotic family dinners, you know, where there's kids running everywhere, there's wrapping paper, there's, you know, the table is snaking through the house. And I think about nobody was turned away from that table. Everybody was welcome in our party and at that table. And for me, that's so important. That's what we should be as New Democrats. Every single Canadian in this country that believes in the values of taking care of each other, that believes in the values of taking care of our neighbors. And that doesn't matter if your neighbor is next door or if your neighbor is on the other side of the planet. If you believe in taking care of your neighbors, taking care of your community, taking care of your planet, then you're a New Democrat, and you belong at this table, and you belong as part of our movement.
So Heather, walking into a union hall or into a workplace, into a tough lunchroom full of workers who are worried about losing their jobs tomorrow or next week, what is the most important thing that they need to hear from the NDP, from the leadership right now?
Well, you mentioned my dad was a truck driver, and I can say I spent a lot of days growing up around a kitchen table with truck drivers talking about the issues that are most important to workers. And I think what workers need to know is that we understand what they are going through, and we are them, and we are going to be working with them for solutions. You know, we need to start thinking about how we are going to make sure that workers are taken care of, that they have jobs, that we're dealing with the Trump tariffs, that we're dealing with a federal government who is attacking workers in this country right now. You know, taking away workers' ability to negotiate for fair wages. I look at our federal government, who is not doing near enough to push back against Donald Trump. I look at what's even happening in my province of Alberta, where 51,000 teachers are locked out and likely going to be facing back to work legislation. Like, workers need to know that there is a party in this country that will not stop fighting for them. It's why I brought forward legislation yesterday that would in fact stop illegal unions, stop business unions from going forward, that undermine workers' rights. We'll continue to do that work. You know, I'm so proud of my colleagues within the NDP caucus that brought in legislation to stop 107, to repeal that piece of the Canada Labour Code that takes away the rights of workers.
Heather, what do you think people should know about you that they may not already know about you?
There's so many things. Listen, I think one of the things that I want folks to know is just how committed I am to rebuilding this party, and how hard I want to work to make sure that people around this country see themselves at our table, that people know that this party is for everyone. And it is not about changing our values. It's not about changing what we believe. It's about changing how we talk to people and where we talk to people. It's about meeting them where they are and letting them see that, you know, we're in the fight with them. We're there to help them get ahead and help them move forward. That's why we're all in this. This is why we're all New Democrats. And that's what I want people to know about me.
What is your proudest moment, either on the campaign trail or as an MP?
So, you know, being a member of Parliament, I was elected in 2019 and then again 21 and 2025. And I would say, you know, I was very proud when we were able to stop an Australian coal mining company from tearing down the Rocky Mountains. Protecting the Rocky Mountains was a huge one for me. I think the fact that I was able to fundamentally change the conversation about the genocide in Gaza in Parliament. But I would say, I mean, one of my very proudest moments, to be honest, was when my son came to Ottawa and I tabled a bill on ADHD and on putting in a national framework for ADHD, and my son stood with me and we did a press conference together, and one of the proudest moments for me was watching my son get all the questions while I stood back. And he was a champion, and it was, you know, there's nothing more special than seeing something like that. It was pretty wonderful. So as much as I'm proud of, you know, the dental care, I see our leader Don Davies over here, like the things that we were able to accomplish as a caucus, as proud as I am of some of the bills I've brought forward, you know, ultimately I'm a mom before anything else, and so seeing my kid up there was pretty special.
That's amazing. Yeah. Can you tell us, in the last 30 seconds that we have left with you, what is the future of Labour in one word?
Together. The future of Labour is together. We're doing it together.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you.
Very much appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Heather. Folks, our next candidate is Tony McQuail. Tony has called Huron-Bruce home for over 50 years. He is a lifelong farmer from Lucknow. Tony has been deeply rooted in his community and in the fight for a fair and sustainable agriculture industry. He has served as president of the Huron County Federation of Agriculture and the Ecological Farmers Association of Ontario. And as a trustee with the Huron County Board of Education, he has also worked at Queen's Park as executive assistant to the Ontario Minister of Agriculture, and he has represented New Democrats as a candidate in 7 federal and provincial elections dating back to 1980. Tony and his wife Fran have farmed organically for decades, proving that farmers and consumers can build better food systems together. His fun fact is that he is a parent of 2 daughters and grandparent of 3 granddaughters and 2 grandsons. Let's welcome Tony. Tony, so nice to see you again. Please have a seat. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you.
So,
good
Tony,
to be here.
yes, give us your view of what workers need to hear right now.
I think right off the bat, they need to hear that they're people, they're part of our community, and they're not going to be thrown under the AI bus. I also want to say that my 4 R's that I've been promoting since I got involved in this exciting and challenging process are representation, regeneration, redistribution, and redesign. Change always happens, and we are facing a number of crises. The 2 that are most on my mind is a collapsing ecosystem and a social order that's in crisis in terms of the inequity that we're seeing. And so representation, workers need representation because our first past the post system has been working for the elite since before Confederation. And after the First World War, after sacrificing hundreds of thousands of workers on those battlefields, when they came back, those who were able to come back, well, you couldn't tell them, you don't get the vote, sorry, you know, we don't get a say in what happens. So workers and women got the vote in the 1920s, but the system has kept them from getting effective representation. And for democracy to work at its best, everybody has to be at the table. At its best, democracy lets us find our collective wisdom, and as a society's understanding changes, make the transitions. But we haven't been doing that. We've been stuck in a corporate capitalist consumer society because that's what serves the elites. If you think back to World War II, what What if the CCF had won and said, we've got this incredible capacity to produce as a society and as a country as a result of our gearing up for the war? What if we'd said, rather than, let's figure out how to advertise and make people consume ever more, we said, how can we help farmers and workers and families have more time and use that productive capacity for our basic needs? So we need to get proportional representation, and until we do that, we're going to have to figure out how the NDP and the Greens and possibly other parties work together so that we don't keep making it impossible for us to get around the table effectively. Regeneration is my second point, because if we don't look after the environment, we've got nothing to work with. We don't have anything to be progressive about. So that capitalist consumer society has kept us all on a hamster wheel, rushing to do more and more and more, and getting way beyond the carrying capacity of the planet. And I see that as a farmer. 50 years ago, my wife and I were married in our orchard, and it was just with insects. This year, 50 years later, it was silent. And it was silent. There was an insect. There was an insect. And that's part of the web of life that we share this planet with. And if we crash it, everybody's going to be in trouble. The other thing I'd say for workers is we've got to spread our arms wide. Workers are the person staying home with the kids, looking after an aging parent, helping the kids across the street as a school crossing guard. And they're also the small business person with a mortgage and a line of credit. These are the people in our community. They're the 99%. The workers of Canada are the 99%. And not the, if there's a billionaire class, okay, we need to figure out how to get them. That's the third one, redistribution. How we get the wealth of society much more fairly and equitably distributed. And then the final one is redesign. And that's another part in terms of workers, is we have to figure out how we redesign the economy so that it works fairly and works within the carrying capacity of the planet. And for that, we have to make wise and sensible transition programs, because some jobs are going to disappear. They'll disappear no matter what we do, but we can either do it with effective planning and support, or we can just throw people under the bus. And the final thing I'd say is AI is not only a concern for workers, it's a concern for communities, because it has a huge environmental footprint. And I think we need to be worried about who's programming the AI. Is it artificial self-interest? And who's monitoring the AI? Or are we going to end up with artificial stupidity that takes us down a road that we're already on in terms of crashing the ecosystem and destroying society? So those are the concerns when you ask me that question, Bea.
Thank you, Tony. So from all of the things that you've outlined, what actions would you take on day one?
Well, the action on day one would be to call first all the other candidates, because they're an impressive group of people. And I know I'm the underdog in this. When I reached out to my people and said, do you think running's a good idea? Most of them thought I had important things to say that maybe I should say and hopefully you would want to hear. But they also said, you're probably not going to win. Well, that's fine. But if I do win, I would reach out to them and say, okay, now how do we take all that we brought to this and work it to build? And the other thing I would say is I would call some other party leaders and say, okay, we've been beating each other up. We've been wasting our volunteers' money. We've been wasting our volunteers' time by running competing candidates. What can we agree on now? If we had formed a minority government, we'd have had to figure out what we could agree and work on. Let's do it 3 or 4 years before the next election, come up with a clear position, then figure out how to not run competing candidates, but have a single candidate bringing that forward, so that maybe the disillusioned liberals, the concerned conservatives, and the 50% of the people who've given up on politics because it doesn't work for them, they get promised first past the post-election in 2015. Ha, 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 ha. The system just doesn't work. For ordinary people these days. And so they're pissed off and they're disillusioned and they've turned away. We need to reach out to them and get them in. And I think that creating an effective, green, progressive voice that has some policies that say this is how we're going to deal with it would get somewhere.
What is is the most important trait that the next NDP leader needs to possess?
Well, I know I don't know everything, and I never will. I think he or she needs to be willing to work out and reach out and work with others, but I also think it's really important to articulate a vision. And I'm a holistic management certified educator, and holistic management was transformational for our family because it helped us look at, well, what do we really value? What do we really want? What's the quality of life we'd like? What's the future vision for our family and our farm? And having that unified vision really then helped us because we create the future day by day as we make decisions. The decisions we make today have an impact on what the future is going to look like. And so when I reached out to people the first time, I said, what are your hopes? What are your dreams for Canada? And I'm putting them together in a holistic vision or a holistic goal for Canada that I think could be a unifying thing. So I think, the vision, your leader isn't going to be all things to all people, but I think they need to be cooperative, collaborative, and have a sense of what we value and where we hope to go as a society.
So Tony, if you were to walk into a lunchroom of workers who are worried about losing their job in the next year, next month, what is your message to those workers?
You're probably right to worry, and now what you have to do is work together and organize and figure out what are the points at which you can get leverage to either hold on to the job or to ensure that if somebody's going to leave town. I mean, we've got the example of the recent closure of the sawmill in the north, and here you are with a company just walking away from 150 jobs and a community of 1,000 people, and that leaves a huge hole in a community. And so people need to organize, but also we need to think long-term as well. And how do we work toward more cooperative ownership or collective ownership of the mills or of whatever we're in, so that we don't just let foreign absentee ownership end up pulling important parts out of our communities, and that happens rurally and urban.
Thank you for that. With the time that we have left, what I'm wondering about is what is the future of labor in one word?
Representation. For democracy to work, everybody's got to be at the table. And figuring out first how we, with our current system, deal with first past the post and its handicapping that it does to new and innovative ideas, certainly to the United Farmers, the Independent Labor Movement, the CCF, the NDP, now the NDP and Greens. It's been a terrible handicap. So we need to figure out how we can deal with that. In holistic management, we say, if you have a problem, you've got three choices. You can do the same harder, or make a change. I think it's time to make a change.
Thank you, Tony. Really good. Take care. All right, folks. Thank you, Tony. Our next leadership candidate is Avi Lewis. Avi is a veteran journalist, an educator, and activist with more than 35 years of movement-building experience. He has spent his life bringing working-class politics to the national stage, combining grassroots organizing with the power of storytelling. A two-time federal NDP candidate, Avi understands both the challenges and the promise of building a stronger and more united party. Between campaigns, he teaches climate justice and documentary film at UBC, preparing the next generation of organizers and storytellers. From The Take, his groundbreaking film on worker-run factories, to The Leap and The Message from the Future, Avi has inspired people around the world to confront inequality and to act boldly on climate. Avi lives in Vancouver with his wife Naomi Klein and their son Toma and their dog named Smoke. And his fun fact is that he is a lifelong campaigner, but of a different kind. He started playing Dungeons and Dragons at age 10 with a Hobbit thief character, very originally named Biblo. So welcome to Avi. Avi. So nice to see you again.
Just kidding. Not my move.
Welcome, Avi.
Hi, Bea.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So give us sort of an overview of, what workers need to hear from you.
Merci pour la question. Notre campagne est entièrement focalisée sur l'urgence quotidienne de juste survivre dans une économie impossible. Le coût de la vie explose partout au Canada parce que le pouvoir économique est concentré entre les mains de quelques grandes entreprises. J'ai un petit aide. Ouais, c'est possible? Il y a 5 chaînes d'épicerie, 3 entreprises de télécommunications, 5 grandes banques. Ils fixent les prix, ils contrôlent les marchés et profitent de la crise actuelle pendant que les gens ont de la difficulté à se payer leur loyer. C'est comme ça. C'est pourquoi nous proposons une option publique pour l'épicerie, pour le logement, pour les forfaits cellulaires, entre autres, rendus possibles grâce à un impôt sur les plus riches de notre société. We are laser focused on our campaign, on the everyday emergency. The everyday emergency of just trying to get by in an impossible economy. And we feel that it's time for some straight talk because we know why. We have every sector of our economy dominated by a handful of small players. 5 big banks, 5 big grocery chains, 3 phone companies giving us the highest prices and the worst customer service anywhere. And people are pissed off, and they're right to be. And that's why we've been we've been taking big swings and putting out some very clear solutions that are actually as big as the crises we face, like a public option for groceries. We've provoked a debate on this subject. Not everybody agrees, but I think the NDP has got to be putting forward ideas, not just the right words carefully chosen or platitudes. It is a time of desperation when fascism is rising, not just in the authoritarian government south of the border, but around. And the seeds are planted in the economic desperation that the system is creating. We are the only party that can identify the cause of this, the massive concentration of wealth, and propose solutions like a public option for groceries that's actually going to provoke a debate about what would fix this crisis that we're in.
So, Avi, when you walk into a lunchroom full of workers who are worried about their job next week or next month, what do those workers need to hear from an NDP leader?
Straight talk. Straight talk. It can't be message boxes. It can't be carefully sculpted phrases. It has to be straight talk, like you've heard from all the other candidates. We are aligned. We are NDPers. We need to connect with working class people because we feel the desperation that is coming from all of our lives right now. It's that fundamental movement of the heart towards a lived reality of everyone in our communities. And we're the ones who feel it. And we also are the only ones who have a diagnosis for why it's like this in such a rich country in a time where there are fountains of wealth being created and where the billionaires are actually building themselves rocket ships to Mars to leave us all behind and as the planet burns. People know this in their skin. They're living it. And we need to start proposing solutions that are actually going to make people go, that's right. The Stellantis plant gets hundreds of millions of dollars of public money and they want to run south and take away all those jobs. Fine, bye. We're going to keep that factory and all the machines that we paid for and run it under public ownership to preserve those jobs and create EVs under public control. I mean, Bea, if you say that in a lunchroom, you're going to have a discussion. People are going to lean forward. We're going to talk about this stuff.
Can you tell us what the most important trait is for the future leader of the NDP?
Yeah, I think it is just cutting the crap and actually just naming the problems and really connecting with people. People are rightly suspicious of politicians. Everything seems like le cassette, like the tape loop. And we got to get off that kind of politics. Authenticity is actually working in politics right now, but where we see the authenticity is on the far other side. And I think that this naming of the problem and actually proposing big solutions, I wasn't going to do this, but I got this email right before the show. We need to figure out how to get back voters that we lost in the last election, right? And I've made this really big thing about a public option for groceries. So I got this email today My name is Blake. I recently read Let's article about your project to launch a government grocery store. I wanted to reach out because this is an initiative I've been advocating for several years, and to see someone finally take it seriously is genuinely exciting. I'm a staunch conservative, but I believe this project has real merit and potential to strengthen communities across the country. I've worked in this industry, and for this idea to succeed, we would need to work hand in hand with local farmers and bakers and food producers, and with proper federal support, these local suppliers could feed Canadians and give them access to affordable, quality homegrown food. We are going to get back the voters we've lost with our ideas. It's not just some magic messaging formula. I really believe that we can make these solutions ring out across the land and bring people home. And then when we bring them home, we got to organize our asses off. And in a room full of trade unionists, I don't think I have to explain that it starts person to person with individual conversations, and we build collective power from the base.
Can you tell us about a moment that shaped your decision to run for leader?
I knocked on the store in Vancouver Centre in the last election, and the guy opened the door. He's a 60-year-old software programmer who was living and working in a 300 square foot apartment, paying $3,000 a month. He barely left his room because he was just working all the time. And he was getting pulled into that right-wing vortex of the manosphere. And he was angry, and he was isolated, and he was lonely. And we talked for a long time. And as we connected, we share outrage about the fountains of corporate wealth in this country while people are working beyond multiple jobs and still struggling to make rent. And by the end of the conversation, he was like, I'm in. Nobody's taking me seriously this way. What are you doing about it? I'm like, we're knocking on doors, we're talking to neighbors, and we're actually going to build community power, hand-to-hand organizing. He was one of the best canvassers on the campaign, and he came out and joined us. And I think, I don't know where he's at right now. I got to reconnect. I've been traveling a lot. But that's how we win people back and win people over and build power at the same time.
So what would be the most important action that you would want to take on day one to start putting these building blocks into place?
Go right back to the base. We have 343 riding associations across this country. They feel abandoned. They feel there's anger at the base. They feel neglected. They feel under-resourced. They could be 343 community organizing hubs 365 days a year, and the party has to start valuing the base, not just as an ATM, not just for a show, but for the actual ideas that will fix problems in communities and to build community and support other struggles year-round. So when we build up the EDAs and resource them and provide them training and connect them to each other, then we're going to start showing up for workers' struggles in communities. Refugees need settling. There needs to be mutual aid during a pandemic or an emergency. We need to weave ourselves into the fabric of life at the base, and that's how we build back.
Is there something about you that people don't already know that you would like them to know or be aware of?
I'm a massive Blue Jays fan. I'm like 162 games a year. My dad we never did like cliched father-son things in my feminist family household. But he took me to the first Blue Jays game in 1977. It snowed, everybody left, we stayed, the Jays won. That was it for life. And the thing I love about these guys right now, they're the journeymen, the minor leaguers, the grinders, the ones who aren't supposed to be there. They look out for each other, and they're going to the World Series on the basis of a bunch of players that shouldn't even be there, that nobody knows, So I just think there's something, I know they're all millionaires playing a kid's game for money, but, I feel like there's something special about this.
In your life of activism, is there something that you're most proud of, an experience or some way that you helped someone, or just something that you're most proud of?
I mean, I teach students, and they are marinating in fear and panic around the crises closing in, the climate, the economy, and we find and we share that the antidote to despair is action. And when I see the light go on, whether it's a volunteer on a local campaign or whether it's a student that I've helped plug into the climate movement, you just see people find their voice and their power. You've seen it so many times in struggles, right? And you see someone find the connection with other people, and they go from finding their own voice to finding collective power together. And to me, that's the most exhilarating thing. I've been able to participate in it so many times, as everyone here has. And for me, that's the thrill of politics.
And lastly, the future of the labor movement in one word.
Can't do it. It's two. General strike. That's it.
Thank you so much, Avi. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, give it up for Avi. So folks, the last leadership candidate that we have tonight is Tanille Johnston. Tanille is from the Weewaikai First Nation. She is a social worker and a mother. She was born and raised in Campbell River, BC, and she has spent her life fighting for equity, justice, and strong, healthy communities. She has over 14 years as a registered social worker. Tanille now serves as the Director of Community Programs and Services with the First Nations Health Authority as a city councillor. Her leadership is grounded in action, from delivering frontline services to advancing change within institutions. And now she's running to lead the NDP into a new era, one that centers equity and builds from the ground up, that fights for affordable housing, universal health care, and a real representation for Indigenous peoples. Tanille believes that a stronger NDP starts with listening, organizing, and having the courage to lead everyone. And her fun fact is that despite not being elected, she was able to capture an impressive 26,000 votes, about 33% in the federal election in April for North Island Powell River in BC, and came a very close second in that race. So welcome to Tanille. So nice to see you again. It's so nice to see you again.
Yes, you as well. It's been forever.
So what do workers need to hear right now?
Oh, what do workers not need to hear right now? I think workers need to hear that the NDP is invested in building a strategy that's going to help us win. I think, thanks. I think they need to hear messages that's going to establish confidence that there is a big, bold future right around the corner, and that the NDP is there to back them and make it happen. The job losses are stacking up constantly. We heard of another 1,200 jobs that are threatened today through GM, which is just heartbreaking. And I think we need to earn that confidence back by demonstrating action, and part of that is getting into the next election and winning, so that we can do these big, bold policy changes that we want to see across the country.
Thank you for that. What's the most important action that you would take on day one?
Day one. So what comes to mind right away is free memberships. I think if we want to grow the party and we want to make the changes that we want to make, we need more people. And to do that is making it accessible. We need to not have a paywall that's closing down our party. We need to open up that door. Even if we want more people to come to the table, open up the door, arguably put in a ramp, widen it, make it super accessible so that we can have all people welcome to the NDP table.
Can you tell us a little bit about your decision to run for leader? What sparked that decision?
Oh, it was definitely a long process. I wanted to make sure that I was having conversations with folks that knew me from a variety of perspectives, not only politically, who I am as a person, as a parent, who I was as a student organizer, and whether or not this was an avenue that I should be pursuing. On top of that, I was getting calls from folks from various places in the country that I had never met before, but they watched our battle in North Island Powell River, and they called and said, would you consider this? I looked at Indigenous leaders before me that stepped into this space. I contacted numerous Indigenous leaders across the country to have those conversations. I really felt that we needed representation in our leadership race. We are the New Democratic Party. We are for all people, and I wanted to see that in our leadership race. And so here we are, making the big move and running for leadership.
In your estimation, what is the most important trait that the next leader needs to possess?
I think the next leader really needs to have a ton of energy, a ton of commitment, the ability to see and hear across diverse spectrums. They need to be able to hold our values as core, have a lot of integrity in that. Inclusion isn't just a word, it's a verb. You need to activate inclusion. You need to live that. You need to demonstrate it day in and day out. if we don't have that in a leader, if you can't see yourself in that leader as a student, as a minority, as a person that maybe identifies as an equity group or anything other than your average Canadian, you need to be able to see yourself in our party. And so I believe that as someone who grew up in student politics and was arguably born in student politics, as someone who is Indigenous, as a woman, I feel like I do embody a lot of those things. I feel like I'm positioned to have an opportunity to build this party and to structure it in a way that's going to enable that victory in the next election.
For workers sitting in a lunchroom worried about their job next week, next month, and you're walking in as the NDP leader, what is your message to them? How are you engaging with them?
My message is the change is here. We're going to go bold into the next election. We need to organize. We need to come together. I think first, before I would talk at that group, though, I would need to hear them out. I think we need to own where maybe we haven't stepped up, where maybe we haven't championed a line that we should have. And I think we need to hear that. I think we need to take a second to be critical of ourselves and use that to do better, to go forward, to build more, and to be accountable to the people. We don't want folks to feel like disenchanted by the NDP. We want people to feel inspired and invigorated and ready to go. And in order to do that, you have to establish that trust. And to establish trust, you have to hear people out.
And you ran in the last election and you had a great showing. And so I'm wondering, during that campaign or in your time as an activist in a variety of roles that you've had, is there something that really stands out that you're particularly proud of, or a connection made, or a moment that you think back that's really inspiring to you?
I mean, there were so many. I mean, I was super proud of the effort that our team put in. So for those folks that don't know North Island, Powell River, it's a very large riding, probably about 300 kilometers long and 300 kilometers wide, with numerous rural and remote communities that I think we all know need a lot of extra support in order to run a successful campaign. It's costly, and you need a big team. I think we did really well at connecting with all of our small areas. I was on boats and planes to get to every little nook and cranny that we had. Some communities had never seen a candidate come out to their community before, and that was really amazing for me. I think one other thing that really stands is we box. So there's a lot of smaller nations that may not necessarily be overly rural or remote, but they didn't have a ballot box that was close to them, that was easily accessible so they could go vote. And so we worked with Elections Canada to ensure that every nation within my riding had the opportunity to have a ballot box in their community. And that was not just so that geographically it was, easy to reach over and put your ballot in, but they were in spaces that were identified commonly as safe for those folks to go vote. And that was really important for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. Is there something that people should know about you that we may not already know?
Oh, I mean, I'm the era of social media, so there's not a whole ton of secrets about me. One thing, so my Bakwam name, my First Nations name is Lakologwa, and it loosely translates to speaks loud or voices heard. So
So we have a little bit of time. Either you can fill it or I can ask you another question. It's up to you.
I love questions. Do we get to take from the audience? No? Don't take me up on that.
So you went into work as a registered social worker. What caused you to want to do that work, and what was the driving force behind that decision?
Yeah, so post-secondary education was a huge journey for me. When I first entered, I actually went into nursing school at Camosun College. I learned quickly that I wasn't really a nurse, and I shifted my studies into studying mental health and addiction, and did a lot of support worker work after that, and was really happy with being involved with those community members and helping and feeling like I was being supportive and doing really good work. And so what career can get me closer to this? What career can enable me to do more of this? And it was social work. And so I went back into social work and ended up doing my undergrad and my master's in social work at the University of Victoria, which was a really amazing experience. And I was very lucky to start that career at an organization called Surrounded by Cedar Child and Family Services. And I had just the best leadership to learn from in my team leader, a very strong Cree, Saskatchewan woman that really showed me, how to do the work well. And I'm so forever grateful for that leadership.
And how has that work morphed into the political work that you're now seeking to do, or your decision to run in the last election for an MP spot?
Yeah, so an author that's famous in the social work world is Bell Hooks, and she has the term social work in the back. The personal is political, and arguably politics entered my life when I was given a status number. I've never lived a life outside of politics. It's always been a part of my life, whether I wanted it to be or not. And social work is built on advocacy. It's built on justice. It's built around navigating systems that were never meant to work for you. And I feel like that is also the work of the NDP. That is the work that we're doing. We're advocating. We're fighting against systems that were never built for everyday people. They're built to keep people down. They're built to support the 1% to gain further and further wealth. So I feel like it's, social work and politics, it's kind of one and the same.
Thank you so much, Tanille. Really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to sincerely thank the leadership candidates for joining us this evening, and everyone that's been here in the room and that's watching. What we heard this evening were ideas, some big, some bold, all aimed at tackling the challenges that working people face every single day. We know that workers are not looking for sympathy. What they're looking for is solutions from this government. And what we heard is a clear message. People want leaders who are going to fight for good jobs, for affordability, and for fairness. Leaders who are going to make sure that working families don't fall further behind. Tonight was just the start of this conversation, and I encourage everyone here to continue to engage, to visit the candidate websites, to learn more about their plan, to bring your questions and ideas forward to the candidates. I will remind folks that the NDP will be hosting an all-candidate debate in Montreal on Thursday, November 27th, and I hope that you're going to tune in and continue this conversation, because this isn't just about choosing a party leader. It's about shaping the future for working people across Canada. So we know in the labor movement that when we stand together, when workers lead, we can make progress. We can make change, and we can build the kind of Canada that truly works for working people. So I want to thank you again for being part of this important conversation. Again, together we can make sure that working people are being heard, and that they are also at the heart of all of the decision making that shapes our country's future. So solidarity and good night, everyone. Solidarity. We can have the candidates come out. Solidarity. Should we have the candidates come out one more time, wherever they are? Come on back, candidates. Come and get some applause for the people in the room.